Good evening, friends and neighbors. My name is Terry Carter, and I am a writer and a poet. I also have the privilege of directing elder services at the West Medford Community Center on 111 Arlington Street in lovely Medford, Massachusetts. Welcome to another monthly presentation of First Friday's Words and Music. Now, I realize that we're coming to you on the third Friday this month, but that is still a great window of time in this month that we poets particularly love. National Poetry Month is in April. Thanks for welcoming us into your homes for this special and unique edition of our program. Now, we are indeed living in some unprecedented times in the history of our city, state, country, and indeed in our world. As such, we're doing things that we've never done before to keep providing some of the programs you've come to enjoy at the WMCC. So, physical distancing is in full effect, and so we're using the Zoom video conferencing platform to stage tonight's program, which we're broadcasting to you live via Facebook live stream and on Medford Community Media. We've got our friend Patrick Gordon helping us out with that. So if you're on Comcast system, it's channel 3. If you're on Verizon, it's channel 47. So if you want to swap over, and maybe get a little bit cleaner image than you might on your computer through Facebook, you can certainly do that. Wherever you are, however you're going to be watching tonight, welcome to the show. Tonight is about the unique literary art form most people might celebrate once a year, but which my panel and I celebrate virtually year-round. Tonight is about the word, and the word is poetry, a special oasis in the heart of the COVID-19 desert that we find ourselves in. We're about rhythm, rhyme, verse, stanza, and freewheeling expression. I've got several friends with me, so ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce tonight's panel of lyrical enthusiasts. First, from Medford High School's English Language Arts Department, hopefully we'll have two, but we have at least one of our teachers now. Please welcome Max Heinig.
Hello.
Okay, Max is a singer-songwriter, a very accomplished poet, and a brewer of fine craft beers.
Thank you.
We've done a couple of things together, including a poetry on hops celebration of fermentation and versification at the Medford Historical Society. Max has his work in a number of great poetry journals all the time, and so I'm happy to have him as a presenter tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Joining Max is his colleague from Medford High, Ami Saunier. Hi, Ami, how are you?
Good, how are you guys doing?
Oh, good, we're glad to see you. Now, Ami and I became fast friends after she saw me give the keynote address at the city's MLK celebration back in February. She invited me to the high school to present to her class and to participate in CCSR's World Cafe for Black History Month. I had a blast and I wanted to return the favor. So I invited her to join us tonight because she is definitely a fan and an aficionado of poetry and uses it really liberally in her classes. So we'll let her talk about that a little bit later on. But Ami, so glad to have you tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, all right. And we are also joined by my West Medford Reading Club comrade and Medfordite Sarah Giroux.
Hi, Terry. Nice to be here.
Very good. Sarah is a working visual artist who uses poetry to further highlight what she commits to canvas in a very unique way. You'll have a chance to see what I mean in just a little bit. She's represented in several art venues around the local area. And when this craziness ends, I hope that you'll have a chance to see her work live, up close and personal. In the meantime, we can share in some of her insights tonight. Welcome to the show once again, Sarah Gerald. And then finally, we're joined by my longtime friend and poetry co-conspirator, Yvonne Reddy.
Hello, how are you?
Very good. Yvonne lives in Milton, and we are both church mates and have also been in poetry ministry together as part of a poetry group called Lyric that I used to direct at Jubilee Christian Church a number of years ago. Yvonne has also been a literacy teacher in both public school classrooms and with incarcerated populations. So she brings a very unique insight to tonight's conversation. Listen, thank you all for coming on the show tonight and welcome to our little poetry party. Okay, so as has mostly been my custom in getting these conversations started, and I'm hoping that I can get my hands on it quickly. Knew I should have pulled it out. Okay. I usually like to offer a little bit of poetry to get us kind of into the mood. April is usually that time of the year in Medford when the Mystic River comes into greater focus, as folks are running along its banks, the herring are running over its ladders, and canoes and kayaks are running on its waves. The river has a special meaning to the folks who are native to West Medford. So I'd like for you to have a listen to a poem that I wrote a few years back about living along the Mystic River. It's called Hard by the Mystic. They gave my people the lowlands, and not much of it, just a few streets hard by the river. Banks turned a blind eye behind the red lines, and it wasn't about the money. Class was an irresistible force. Race was an immovable object. Perhaps it wasn't the written rule, but white folks knew the legal tool to keep us in our place in this Mystic Valley space where slaves and rum and ships had built some mansions, made some millionaires, and hid some old money. So it was hard by the Mystic we went, muddy and a bit turned down, the only place where one could be brown in this ancient Middlesex County town where we named it and claimed it and made it our own. Even in the heat of summer, when the shores were parched and the soil was rank with the decay of aquatic alchemy, we were one with the river. We followed its flow to the lakes and the sandy beachfront. Like our own Jordan Shore, we baptized and blessed our brothers and sisters in Christ. We caught the little fishes to go with our loaves of bread and became the teeming multitude that our Lord Jesus fed hard by the Mystic. We became community. We commanded unity. We embraced the village and raised up our children in the way they should go. Now, as the river ebbs and flows, the tides would turn and our fortune grows. A few more streets become our home. Houses on Sharon join kin on Jerome. From Duggar Park to the railroad tracks, the landed folk make more room for blacks. The color line recedes a bit. Church and school in the center sit. The Ville becomes the heart of it, hard by the Mystic shores. Now the worm has surely turned, and folks who left has surely learned things couldn't stay the same. The muddy Mystic most days is clean. The banks are freshly cut and green. Faces once distinctly brown are not the only ones in town. The streets that once were our confines must now embrace what gentry defines. Condominium culture, bedroom convenience, university sprawl, access, egress, excess, and largesse. Now those lowlands have become the highlights of a trending city, and sometimes that success isn't pretty when it's at the expense of your black and brown and tan family. And yet, the river turns and bends from where it begins to where it ends. The only place where one could be brown in this ancient Middlesex County town, where we named it and claimed it and made it our own. Thank you. Okay, so we're good. Okay, poet, so let's get this party started. I want to start with a few questions, and then I want to give everybody a chance to riff a bit from your collective works. So, Ami, I'm going to start with you if that's okay.
Sure.
All right. So, what I want to ask you is, when did you start writing, and what is it about poetry that resonates with you?
Well, Terry, I grew up not on the Mystic River in Medford, although I got to live there about 10 years ago. I grew up in New York City in the Hudson Valley, and I was allowed to take the train into the city at the age of 16. I grew up in the woods. There was bear and coyote that ran through my backyard. And I think the first poem I remember reading was to my dad. And the only line I can think of is that I had 1 foot in the city and 1 foot in the country. And I probably was about 10.
Okay.
There was a big, long chunk of time that went by where I was dating musicians and sort of involved with all sorts of different artists, and my own words were somewhat quieted. And then I started teaching at Medford High almost 20 years ago.
Wow.
Right? I think it's been almost 20 years that we've been there. And I think at that point, my writing started to kind of kick up a little bit. I didn't have kids yet. I wasn't married, and I was working with English language learners. So my kids were from all over the country, and they had incredible stories. In college, I studied anthropology and sociology and language and education, but I didn't feel like it was fair to study literature or poetry. It was almost like paying good money to eat candy bars, you know? I just couldn't see that being something I could put money into. So I guess maybe in the last 10 years, it's been a really beautiful respite for me. I have 4 kids of my own now, and I live about an hour from Medford. I couldn't stay in that beautiful little West Medford village. It just got too expensive. So we moved out further into the country, and poetry, really, you can write in just a few minutes. And I only had a few minutes.
Yeah.
So my collection is sporadic and comes in bits and starts when I have just a couple minutes to myself.
Fantastic, fantastic. I do want to, as one of our audience mentioned, I do want to commend you on the work that you did with all of the students who contributed essays to the Martin Luther King essay writing contest.
Yes.
I mean, the booklet that came out was really, really, really very nice and very sweet in many ways. So it was great to see. I think we had somewhere around 40 essays. So it was a big deal.
Yeah.
It was a big deal. Very good. Thank you very much for answering that question. Max, I want to ask you the same question. When did you start writing? I know you've been at it for a minute. And what is it about poetry that resonates with you?
I as a person who loves music and a person who loves language, for me, it's always been the thing that I enjoyed most about my parents are an English professor, retired, and a linguist, and my mom was a psychologist. Worked in education, and the house was always full of music and books, and poetry for me was sort of the child of both. It's sort of a mixture of literature. Obviously it is literature and music. It's not as long as a novel or a story, and it's not exactly pure music because it does work through, you have to say the word horse to somebody and they have to figure out what that means. They have to think about it. It does work through symbols and symbolic language. But for me, I was always enchanted by the language and also enchanted by music. And although I grew up in a house full of books and my dad was an English professor, novels never really did it for me. So So I think it was sort of like the magical spell-like quality of language, and also growing up listening to rap music.
Yeah.
From the time I was about 11. Probably my first love musically was rap. So, you know, rap has only been around for about 40 years. I'm 47. So from the time I was 11, I was listening to, you know, the old school stuff, UTFO Crew, Run DMC,
Wow.
the original stuff. And I
Yeah.
listened to it all the time for, you know, for the next 36 years of my life. So, although I am a white man who is a dork, I have this, you know, not secret to my students, but profound adoration for rap music. And I think it really, I don't know, it steered me towards towards poems. And towards
So if I say EPMD, Curtis Blow, and
basketball is my favorite sport.
there you go. All that stuff resonates with you.
Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic. All right, so let me come up to you, Sarah Gerald. You're maybe cut from a slightly different cloth because you are a visual artist, and poetry is maybe in some ways, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe an accessory to that, and not the original criminal.
Well, I think I actually started doing poetry before I started painting.
Oh, okay, very good.
But it was, I think I have done painting more intensely than I ever did poetry. And I found when I started doing this vegetable series that they just cried out for a poem or two sometimes. So I would write. Sometimes the poem would come before the painting. Sometimes the painting would come before the poem. Sometimes I'd see something, I'd hear something on the radio or in the news, see it in the news, in the newspaper, and I would be off and running in terms of a theme of a painting. And as I would be painting, the words would come to me. So it really, they were really intermixed, I would say.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So we're going to come back to you on vegetable theory a little bit later on, because you're going to do a little bit more with that. But I'm going to bounce, at least on my screen, I'm going to bounce down to Yvonne Reddy. And I want to ask you the same question, Yvonne.
Well, I got started writing poetry probably as a child after learning how to read and hearing the rhythms of the words together. That intrigued me. Somehow, when reading Dr. Seuss books, the rhyme and the rhythm of the words is what captivated me. And then in reading other works, even in literature, sometimes it would be something profound that was said that wasn't rhyming at all. And that captured me as well. So putting those together and seeing it all come as a unit, that really pulled me in, and I started trying to write some of my own, probably the simplest ones, the names of my dogs and animals that were in the house, writing about them. The Hans and King, you are the most wonderful thing. You know, those were my earliest poems that I can remember. I don't even remember what age I was, but it just kind of took off from there. And most of the early stuff I just threw out after I got of a certain age, because I looked back at them and I said, this is trash, you know, so I let it go for the longest time. And really it was when I met you at church again that I started seriously picking it up. I wrote some in college, and I don't even know where those pieces are. The ones that I had, some of them I had copied. I had somebody copy a few pieces onto calligraphy, but I don't even know where they are anymore.
Yeah, I've lost some things, but some things I definitely needed to lose, so it's okay. Yeah, yeah. I
feel
mean,
that way about my painting sometimes, but it's easy to actually paint right on top of,
There you go.
turn it into
True.
greeting cards,
Yeah,
whatever.
The canvas.
yeah, yeah. A coat of white, and you're good to
And,
go.
and you're good to go. Yeah.
Very good, very good. Okay, so we all have, I'm sure, uh, different influences on what we write and how we write. And I know that for me, probably the most profound influence in terms of getting started as a poet came actually from Medford High School. When I was, I think, let's see, 10th grade, one of my English teachers was named Eleanor Kukovitis. And she gave me a volume, a small volume of the collected poems of Langston Hughes.
Yep.
And it was like lighting a fire under me. I felt like he spoke, like directly to my soul. And I learned things because he's, a lyrical poet, but he's a historical poet as well. And so there's a lot of history built into what he wrote. And then I wanted to read more poetry by African Americans, and I read Gwendolyn Brooks, and I read Countee Cullen, and many of the poets of the Harlem Renaissance, and then I went back further, and Paul Laurence Dunbar, and Phyllis Wheatley, and so that was really where my journey began, and I put a lot of that stuff on the back burner until I got to college, and then another professor by the name of Leslie Collins, he stoked the fires again, and I guess one thing led to another, and I started writing seriously again. And it's funny the way that this thing works, because we have periods where we're extremely active and engaged in anything that we do artistically, and then life puts us in places where we're not doing a whole lot with our art. For whatever reason, other places, other things in life take over for a little while. And I
Kids.
had that happen to me for a number of years, until actually I have been working at this organization, doing career development work with college students for about 11 years. And they had a big reorganization, and I got laid off. And it was during that year, a little over a year, that I actually got my poems back together, started writing again, and I actually published my first book, and that was 2009, 2010. So sometimes, in the Bible it says, when the Lord closes a door, He opens a window. So that was my window back into poetry, and I'm really, really been blessed by being able to complete 3 additional books and working on my 5th, which is pretty much ready for publication now. So that's my poetry story. I wanted to make sure that I shared it with you, before we moved on. But I said my main influence was, one, Eleanor Kukovitis giving me that first book of Langston Hughes poetry, and then the poetry of Langston Hughes itself. Yvonne, when you read for pleasure, poetry for pleasure, who do you like to read?
I like Langston Hughes also. I mean, you can go anywhere with him, but I also like Nikki Giovanni was one of my go-tos when I first started writing.
Yeah.
And she spoke to me, basically, a lot that was going on in the 60s and coming up. And so I would say she would be my number one.
Yeah. She was a Fisk graduate, and when in my freshman year, she came back to campus to do some reading and to interact with the students. I got a chance to meet her, and I was like, I was kind of dumbstruck. you know, kind of
Yeah.
awestruck, because she was poetry royalty in our camp at that time, as in addition to having been a Fiskite. So that was a pleasure. Yeah, she's a
Mhm.
dynamic lady, very dynamic. Max, when you read poetry other than your own, and you read a lot because you're always posting up, you know, great stuff from other friends and other poets. But who do you like? Who influences you?
You know, the stuff that I teach probably has the longest or the most enduring impact on my work. And I teach a lot of old stuff.
Yeah.
So the stuff that I teach, I do a world literature class and a British literature class, so English language poetry. So there's like a couple parts to this question, but the stuff that probably has the most influence on me is the stuff I read the most, which is probably a lot of the classics. So Homer, Chaucer, Chaucer, Shakespeare, and stuff like that. But that's by virtue of, for 22 years, I've been teaching it, and sometimes teaching Macbeth 3 to 4 times a year. So at this point, I have hundreds and hundreds of pages of those things memorized. So it's, even if I didn't want to be influenced by it, it's kind of imprinted.
Yeah.
So my ears has been imprinted by songs and by that. What I read for pleasure, these days I read a lot of what other people are publishing in contemporary poetry. And like you said, I try to stay aware of what all the magazines are publishing, so I know whether or not my work will fit there. And so probably, you know, at least an hour a day, I read everything that's being published right now in America through the wonderful gift of the internet. There's never been more poetry being published than now. I try to stay aware of what the kids are interested in. So I read a lot of, you know, and listen to a lot of spoken word stuff. I follow things like button poetry. So if you type that into YouTube, that's a good sort of sense of what's going on for people between the ages of, say, like 18 and like 30, etc. But you know, I kind of open to everything, but I try to, like Ami does, I think I try to be always with an eye for like what my students might like. Then you teach that all year, and then whether or not that was going to be your cup of tea initially, it becomes really like, you know, the shirt that you wear.
Excellent. Very good. Very good. Ami, do you want to add to that, please? You're muted. Okay.
So I was thinking about growing up. My senior year I spent in France, and I took the baccalaureate there, which is a big fancy test. And my father was a college professor and taught philosophy and then sociology and then ecology and mixed them all together. And I had never really been into philosophy until I went to class in France, and I got an 18 out of 20 on the baccalaureate in philosophy.
Wow.
And I've thought about that a lot because I didn't do well on any other part of that test. And it's funny because philosophy is sort of like poetry, where
in some ways, absolutely,
you can use the simplest language to explain the ideas, then they come across. And I think for me, I do use a lot of poetry, partially because it transcends language barriers. You can say a lot with very few words. And it also helps kids understand that language is in fact an art form.
That's right.
It transcends, you know, the power structure that I spend a lot of time talking about in the classroom as well. But when you look at poetry, it gives voice in a way that not much else can. So I think for me, we do a lot of Maya Angelou. We spend time with Maya Angelou. Sometimes the kids are like, can we take a break from Maya Angelou? We do a lot of poetry in other languages, and we let the ideas of poetry sort of mix and mingle. Sometimes I understand the poetry, sometimes I don't, but I do like to let my kids write in their first languages, and we try and understand rhyme scheme, and we try and hear the beat and the rhythm behind the words. Maya is definitely one of my influences, but like Max, I did grow up in that generation where hip hop was just taking off. You know, I remember doing Young MC's Fastest Rhyme when I was like
Wow.
16, and I bet I could still recite it, but my kids have no idea what it is. It did give me this bridge in which to kind of connect poetry as we see it today to rhythm and poetry and music. And so I really enjoy using that to kind of get kids to find their own voice.
I love it. I love it. Fantastic. So, Sarah, artistically, I see in your work, I see like Dolly, and it's just brilliantly colorful, and you know, love it. But were there also influences poetically that you gravitated toward?
You know, I certainly love, when I was growing up, I loved Edna St. Vincent Millay. Now I gravitate towards Mary Oliver. But, you know, I'm more a dedicated painter than I am a dedicated poet at this point. And my poetry has had a bunch of different jump starts, if you will. I mean, certainly I wrote when I was in high school. When I started painting the vegetables, I started writing. And I really didn't write very much in between.
Okay.
So, and then I've got one poem that's new that I'll have for the last of my paintings.
Okay.
So it's, you know, it's I'm not an English teacher. I'm actually a scientist, in fact, trained as a scientist. So this has definitely been a something that's been a sidebar kind of thing, and also something that's an adjunct to my visual art.
Very, very good.
So,
Okay.
and you know, the other thing is that the vegetables are meant as in a humorous way. I mean, and the poems by and large have a humorous side to them as well. Some of them are more on the doggerel, you could call them doggerel, than more than poetry, but they're sort of fun. They're meant to capture the humor in the painting.
Well, that's a great segue, because what I want to do now is I want to get a round of reading in before I kind of go to our maybe some last notions and points. But I'm gonna go away from you, but I'll be coming back to you, and then we'll try to get a sense of this intersection between your art and the poetry. Let's see, where am I at? Okay, good. Yvonne, why don't you get us started?
You want your favorite?
Yes, please. I'm easy.
I kind of figured I couldn't get away without doing that one. All right, we can do that one. It's called South Cape Beach. It used to be a dirt road, perhaps more like packed sand, that formed a dust cloud as our tires rolled, and pebbles kicked against metal began their rhythmic song. Only nature's landmarks led to the sacred spot. No sign indicated its existence where we turned. Just Wampanoag friends in the know converged on these shores. Indigenous trees lining the sides reached into our cloud and brushed us as we passed. No gated estates and member-only communities carved into landscape lots. We remember the flight of songbirds, the dash of cottontails, and all of Mother's creations living in harmony. Wrapped in imagery, lulled by song, only ceasing of metallic pings at road's end wakens us to our dispersing cloud, revealing a familiar sun, a first light sachem, reading arrivals, a Wampanoag welcome with smile. Shell gatherers to the left, fishermen to the right, a well-known routine. No mid-road booth declared these shores state-owned. No posted hours professed, creation closed. Salty sea air filled nostrils, sand shifting underfoot, lugged coolers, and blankets attempting flight, anchored quickly in choice beach spots with ocean smooth rocks, same ones gathered by children of the first light. No boardwalk scent of pressure treated pine, only driftwood and seagrass amongst the dunes. We walked over to catch fish and crab, fresh on the line. We knew ocean's power, life it gave and took, yet children gathered seaweed, dived for rocks, swam with fish. Eyed young ones combed crashing waves. Respect for her kept us safe. No markers or ropes warned of nature's depth. Who are these lifeguards? What are these white towers lettered in red, lining Massapee shores? Shores still one with the Wampanoag. Nature guards her own. Familiar tribes once surrounded us as far as we could see. This was a healing place where we knew who we'd meet. Now we search with longing in a sea of faces reminiscent of disease and extinction. But Medicom still lives amongst his people. 2,000 plus strong, strengthened by affliction, rebirthing Wampanoag, unity of the mother tongue. We still live here. Aznute u ne aon. Nature guards her own. Massapee, we are still here. We call it home.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. You know, it's funny because I wrote a poem in 2018 for my fourth book, and as I was writing it, I always heard your poem in my head, different bits and pieces of it, and I had to fight not to, you know, be derivative, but at the same token, all great poetry is influenced at some point by other great poetry. So I love that piece. It's really evocative. It really speaks to this whole notion of, some interloping in these native spaces.
Yes.
So, thank you so much for that. That's beautiful. Ami, can I prevail upon you to read for us?
She's muted.
Okay, so I'll start with two pieces.
Okay.
She's
You're muted. You're okay.
Oh.
You're live. No, you're muted again. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right, so different shorter pieces that I'll pick from, but I think I'll follow Yvonne and see if I can stick with that theme of summer that we heard coming out of that poem. And
Do you? No problem.
This is called Summer's Front Stoop. When flowers are bursting, sunrise and sunset, a blaze of color and spin, the stress of the school year, a long forgotten sin. Sunshiny days full of adventures, projects, and din. The shadows grow long. peepers serrayed on mandolin.
Hmm.
The kids are cleaned up, cuddled down and tucked in. Summertime gets down deep under the skin. That's when front stooping may truly begin. The moon starts to rise and the stars shine above. We sit on the stoop until push comes to shove. Talking and laughing and cooing like doves. As the moon is high over our heads, it's time to tuck in, reading books and making love. The morning dawns easy, a birdsong bouquet. Kids tumble out of bed in bright-eyed disarray. And before you know it, with coffee in hand, we are back out on the stoop to welcome the day.
Love it.
Yeah, it's coming. It's definitely coming, and we're not in it right now at all, but it's nice to have it be the light at the end of the tunnel for a lot of us
Absolutely.
teachers. Whew,
Something to look forward to for
Yeah.
sure.
that's right.
Mhm. Did you have another one you want to share?
Yeah, this one's just real short, but I think it's speaks to this time period. A lot of what I've been writing recently has to do with this concept of the quiet of quarantine.
Mm.
And this is a really short piece, but I think it hits what I'm hoping to say.
Okay.
It's called Finding Voices in the Dark.
Mm.
In the silence, cold and stark, I know you're there. I know you see the beginning of who you're gonna be. Do you know? It's hard to say. You are you, and that's okay. Wherever you go, no matter how far you roam, your voice is there. It is your home. And that's that.
Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. Beautiful. Quite lovely. Quite lovely. Max, I'm gonna ask you to jump in.
Okay. You want happy or not happy?
Go where you go, man.
Okay. I'm gonna stay with the happy here. This is a poem called Raspberry that was just published in Thrush. Raspberry. This is what I left the city for, a sight to soak in, the eye and yard, a pint in a palmful, the fruit that grows itself. In summer, when they sit heavy, loose to the touch, I yield to ants that drag a crown off and wait until a thin pinky can don the knit pink hat, then focus and get at the fractal of drupelet, a fat lip, level an igloo's row, sepal a presence bow, peduncle a bristling, the tongue plays lazy pestle to, molars for mortar, seeds bittersweet as the month is plucked, one not done.
Cool.
And I'll give you one other fruit poem because I had a feeling with the pandemic that it might be better to keep things light. But in the second half of the show, if you want my obvious opinions about the president, well, I got you there too.
Come with it.
This is a poem called Blueberrying. And it was, we were in Acadia and we found a little part of the mountain where there were a bunch of wild blueberries. Blueberrying, Gorham Mountain, Acadia. Happy on the incline we sprawl, bad goats on the summit's side, chewing each tiny burst off balance, our kids' sneakers crushing white lichen. We take no pictures, leave joy unlocked for others to discover summer's pride in the ephemeral. While hikers above talk of the good salt air resting in panorama, we offer each other all that we have in our hands. That's it.
Raspberries and blueberries. My wife would be loving you right now.
I wanted to keep it light.
I
So,
love it. I love it. Thank you very much for those.
right on.
So Sarah, we're going to get started with your junction of art and poetry. You've got several pieces that tie into paintings that you've done. So we'll try and get the art up for viewing and let you do the poetry. Bill's on standby, so you can start when you're ready.
Okay. So this first one is the result of a sort of a chance remark that was about as inappropriate then as it is today. When you get the painting up, I'll start the poem. It was up just a few minutes ago. I don't know what's happened to it. It was flashed up on the screen. There we are. The poem's called Dance the Samba. Maybe we should fly to Brazil. Drink the fruit of Bacchus, dressed to kill. Dance the samba till dawn. Taste each other's lips till the night is gone.
I like that. And the painting is absolutely incredible.
So that's sort of a bar scene, you know. I loved doing that one, mostly because of the smoke that I was able to put in there, and I thought that was really fun. It was fun to try to. If you can go back to the painting for a minute, I just want to point out a few things in the painting.
Bill, can you bring that back up? Here we go.
So notice the guys in the background, and the horn or the saxophone that this guy on the far left has. I tried to use the stem of the gourds as the musical instruments.
I can see that.
And then, and I love the idea of the smoke kind of wafting around in a bar scene. So anyway, I had a lot of fun doing this painting.
It's a fantastic painting. I love the spotlights coming out onto the dance floor and then onto the band stage as well. It's really, really cool. It is. It's really cool. So go to your second piece.
Okay. So this piece was done about a year after 9/11, and I had enough chance to sort of let that whole experience percolate in my mind. I knew I was going to do a 9/11 piece, but I didn't know what it was. Oh, this isn't it. No, there it is. Okay. It's called Some Say Fire, and you'll notice that this is sort of it has a lot of reference to a certain Robert Frost painting called Some Say Fire. Some fates are frosty on our breath, and others slow as stone or death. Some say fire will stoke our grave. The past predicts how we'll behave. So this one, I brought this one in to this evening because I felt like in some ways the closest thing that we as a society have had to deal with was 9/11. The closest thing to this pandemic was 9/11. And so for me, this one was, it had so many similarities. So, and I view the four paintings that I'll do today as a sort of a beginning and middle, and then where we are now. So the next one is called Return.
Okay, Bill, bring up the third painting. Perfect.
Nope. There we go. Return. And I'm hearing these headlines about, well, how are we going to get back? What are we doing? What are we going to do to get back to where we need to be? You know, how are we going to reopen society? And this one's called Return. The time has come to turn and face the journey back. With deeper eyes, I peer ahead. My steps reprise will take me to a distant place that I recall too well to view a different vision than before. So, anxiously, I pace the floor, reluctantly preparing to retrace the tracks I know by heart, long steeped in memories like tea, whose tannins from the leaves' debris will give the brew a bitter start. When dreams awake, I venture on, pursuing wishes to believe, but dreams seem only to deceive, then peter out, and then are gone. My new yet old eyes see the sign of goals, remote in past pursuit, that bear a different kind of fruit than what I dreamed would e'er be mine. And so, by growing, I returned. In going forward, I went back, recovering the past along my track, remembering the things I'd learned.
This is it's a beautiful piece of poetry, and it's a wonderful painting. It really is. It's of the four that you're showing. I think this is my favorite because it's so. I think that the juxtaposition of the gourd in the midst of this landscape is just it's so different. It really is. It makes a statement to me. I love it.
Well, thank you.
You did you want to say something else about it?
No, I really enjoyed doing this painting because it's a really an exercise called wet on wet, and very difficult to control.
Yeah. Well,
and
quite nicely done.
Get it all together, and this was sort of the height of when I was doing watercolor, the height of my abilities to do watercolor.
Just beautiful, just beautiful. So last but not least,
the last one. So this one, I don't know. We've all been in situations where we have known that there was something new was coming. Waiting for college to begin, or and so I kind of wanted to use the image of being in the intermission at a play as a metaphor for that. Okay. And I just wanted to point out that there are a whole bunch of symbols in the printing that is done behind these ladies who are dressed for the opera. And that there's the I Ching, which is kind of and then there's the play. There's some a mask there where, and there are a bunch of different symbols that I brought into this painting to symbolize this change, this idea of change.
Wow.
This is called Between Acts. One act over, we pause, awaiting the next. The snack bar is out of drinks. The line to the restroom is long. Our dressy clothes chafe as they hold us tight in place. The intermission stretches on. There's no turning back. We search the lenses of our opera glasses for the next scene. How will this next act claim us?
Very dynamic. It really is. And this painting, I love the coloration of the lower parts of the gourd. They look so gown-like.
Yeah. Well, that's what inspired me for this one. I wanted to do something in between, and I kept looking at these gourds thinking, wow, these are gorgeous. These are like ladies' dresses. These are ladies who are dressed for the opera. Yeah.
Well, it definitely takes on that elegance and that feel of ball gowns. So it's very nice. Well, thank you for that, because again, that's probably not what people might have expected in a poet coming onto the show this evening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow suit, and I'm going to do a piece of poetry that is a companion to some artwork as well. And the artwork definitely came first, several years before the piece, but the piece is called Barbie Doesn't Live Here, and hopefully it matches up with the painting that you'll be viewing. Okay. I heard my sister say, I'll never fit in a size 2. I got hips and a booty, and so do you. Why you so stressed about your BMI? The brothers like that ample thigh. Barbie doesn't live here. No aquiline nose, no perfect toes, no designer clothes. Macy's won't call you for a photo shoot, but Lane Bryant's on sale, so you better scoot. Don't worry a bit about hitting the gym. He drinks whole milk. He doesn't like skim. Barbie doesn't live here. No teensy weensy waist, no food that has no taste, no facial with blue paste. Those skinny broads in the magazines, those ain't women, they're barely teens. You crave your mama's 7-Up cake, Southern fried chicken, and cheesy Mac bake. Barbie doesn't live here. No collagen lips, no tucks and no nips, no 2-inch nail tips. You got curves like your Annie Pearl, who always tells you, go on and get it, girl. You're a healthy size 10 with a sassy strut, a nicely turned calf, and a glorious butt. Barbie doesn't live here. No silicone boobs, no liposuction, no needles or tubes, no breast reduction. All those dolls, they all look the same, just different outfits and cutesy names. So let's not even fantasize about a size 2 figure and some baby blue eyes. Like I've been saying, Barbie doesn't live here. Not at this address, not in this vicinity, not in this neighborhood, not in my reality. Now, I ain't mad at her. She's actually a cute white chick. And that pink Corvette was hot. Hopefully, as you're looking at the picture and you see all of these different images of women of color, they're all shaped a little bit differently than, perhaps the classic Barbie would be shaped. And that's really what I was getting at, is that, this whole notion of a single concept of beauty, whether it be a Eurocentric concept of beauty or, Scandinavian concept of beauty, you got to throw that stuff out the window, because, my opinion is beauty is as beauty does. So, if we can all be beautiful in our own way. And when I was growing up, there weren't a whole lot of Barbies in my neighborhood. Okay, very good, very good. So the last question I have, and it's just, maybe there's an answer for it. You maybe have an answer to it, maybe you don't, but I'd like to ask it anyways. Ami, how is poetry making it easier for you to deal with COVID-19?
Well, when we first were told to start teaching online, I had just gotten through teaching poetry terms. We had just started talking about iambic pentameter and some concepts that are really hard to try and explain on a computer. We, as a class, have been using both the figures of speech, metaphor and assonance and consonance and alliteration, to kind of let kids do a little bit of writing. I've been trying to go back and forth, right? So we did a poem in rhyming couplets. I put one out with, I had all of my students got their journals delivered to their home, and I put a poem right on the front, you know, sort of challenging them to rise to the occasion. It's hard. We have maybe half of our students checking in and doing work, and the other half, we're not sure if they're just sleeping or playing video games or what they're doing. But I've been using poetry a lot for my kids. On that rainy day, we did metaphors about rain, and we did imagery about rain. And that was a neat assignment. I think for myself, there's been a couple of days in the last couple of weeks that, you know, I did my yoga, or I drank my glass of wine, or I tried to find some sort of something to kind of take the edge off. And twice now, I've finally just kind of gone out on the front stoop, which you know now is one of my special places, and just written for a while, and it just takes that edge off. It just gives me an outlet to put all of my worry and frustration and feelings of guilt that we have so much, and there are so many that have so little, and now have even less. And so I think writing has really, I don't think I realized how important it was to my social emotional health, as I have actually felt like a difference, like, oh, okay, I can go to sleep now.
Wow. That's a great commentary. It really is. Thank you for that. How about you, Max?
I'm afraid to admit publicly that I'm very happy right now.
It's all right. We'll borrow a little bit and we'll pay you back when we get on the other side.
Like, I'm worried about everybody's health. I'm worried about my parents who are older. I'm worried about the people in our community who are older. But you know, right now I'm as a person who likes to read and write and be with my family and walk in the woods. This is about all I want to do.
This ain't half bad. I got you. Okay.
I miss the students, and poetry is obviously wonderful, but and it's a great time for me to get a lot of it done. But yeah, I'm trying not to be the person at the party who's like, you know,
Yeah.
it's not an okay time to be cool with not being at work. I know a lot of my colleagues are desperate to get back, and I do miss the students, but honestly, this is like, when in your life are you ever going to get an opportunity to see this much of your children?
Yeah. Well, that's real. That's real, and I appreciate that. That's real.
Sorry.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Sarah, how about you?
Well, you know, to me, it's been a wonderful opportunity to do a lot of painting.
Great.
Since there aren't a lot of distractions. Painting and gardening and keeping busy with life that doesn't involve a lot of other people. And I've never had any problem keeping my days busy, and this isn't any exception. I think my art has deepened in this time, and I'm grateful for that time to do it. I'm painting more now than I have painted in a long time, and I'm painting better. I'm really happy with what I'm painting. So, and you know, I think about all the things I do. And yeah, I certainly miss my friends, and but I miss getting together with the people that I get together with on Trees Medford. I'm involved in trying to bring more trees into Medford through grant writing and through co-chairing the Trees Medford group, and so I miss that activity because that's sort of a little bit on hold. But I'm I'm doing a lot more of the things that are in the home and making bread with everybody else, I guess. And,
Love it.
and painting a lot.
Yeah.
So I feel the same sort of guilt for the fact that, I don't feel like my life is really that changed. Because I don't work outside the home. And it's a different experience, a very different experience for me than for many people I know.
Well, the fact that it is, kind of deepening and focusing is a blessing. So,
Yeah.
we'll commend it to a blessing and leave it at that. Thank you very much. Yvonne, how about you?
I gotta say, I don't feel guilty either. Matter of fact, I'm enjoying it as well. I prefer the quiet, and it's added think time for me. I've gotten to put bulbs in the ground that I would only think about putting in the ground. I've started drawing or doing mindful type of activities that, I tend to write or draw abstractly. So whatever I'm producing is like, whatever comes to mind, I just do it. And I have the freedom to do that now. Whereas if it would be a passing thought otherwise.
Okay.
And I would have to stop what I'm doing in order to capture my thoughts if I wanted to get back to it later. And really, one of the poems that I have tonight, I started writing it probably when I was walking in the woods, climbing Mount Monadnock, and I had to do a voice memo. And then I put it down, and I didn't get back to it again until today, or a few days ago. And then it was from another walk that brought it back to mind. So walking in the woods and working outside. When I go to the grocery store, that's the only time I see people, and I'm not too thrilled about going there. Right. So, and I walk on the other side of the street. If people come towards me, sometimes they just keep coming when they see you waiting to the side and you're waiting for them to move, but they keep coming. So I got to turn around and go around the other way. So I'd rather stay in my yard.
It is indeed an unusual time. Listen, thank you, everybody. I hope everybody that's out there witnessing and audiencing, so to speak, has enjoyed this conversation. I know that I have. The stuff that you guys are doing, the way that you're weathering the storm, so to speak, and the creativity that you bring to bear on your work, on home life, et cetera, and so forth is really a wonder to me. And I really, really genuinely appreciate having this connection with all of you. And I appreciate you allowing me to take advantage of it to bring you together this evening. So thank you once again, sincerely. What we're going to do now is we will shift back to a more exclusively lyrical groove and get into more poetry and verse as we further the entertainment for the evening. We probably have got another, say, 45 to 50 minutes left. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm just going to, kind of go round robin, and I'll have you guys each do a piece or two. And then I'll just, kind of finish up with some things that I brought to read this evening. So, and Max has graciously said that he would play his guitar and do a piece of music for us as well, so that we don't totally lose the music portion of what First Friday usually represents for our audience. And again, Max is a singer-songwriter, so I've listened to some of his tunes, and I'm geeked about this. I'm excited. So Max, can I have you get us started?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm gonna sing a Christina Rossetti poem that I turned into a song. You can tell me if it's too loud. When I'm dead, my dearest, sing those sad songs for me. Plant no roses at my head, no shady cypress tree. Be the green grass above me, the showers and dewdrops wet. And if you will remember, and if you will forget, I shall not see the shadows, I shall not feel the rain, shall not hear the nightingale sing on as if in pain. And dreaming through the twilight, it does not rise except haply may remember, and haply may forget. And that's it.
Oh, thank you so much. I like that.
Thanks. It's just it's a poem, so it has 2 verses and no chorus. So,
Do you have another poem that you would like to share with us?
yeah, and I wanted to read this one about a certain Egyptian pharaoh. Can you see me winking at you?
Yes, and I know that pharaoh.
It's called Scarabs. We
Those are the
dream.
dung beetles.
Yes, yes. This is a poem I published in Glass, which is a poetry magazine that has a special section called Poets Resist for political work.
Come with it.
And I did this whole one as a, as an allegory. Scarabs. We dreamed Pharaoh was flesh. Flesh can be endured. How we waited for him to pass in his glittering palanquin, censers perfuming the scentless desert. While we warned our children not to spy the veiled sun, he stared it down. How we accepted his one-sided wars with the Nubians, the abuses of his concubines, hearing him lord about what bows to use for hunting lions, or just to send his sons. We hoped the Nile would ferry his indignities or return to its banks, but nothing changed. We woke fearing, is this the morning he covers his slaves in honey so he can eat without flies? Is this the day he burns our winter wheat? Is this the night he sates himself at the well of women's tears? Friends say we'll live to see his body washed and prepared, brain melted and pulled through the nose, the lungs and heart in isolated jars, the silvered vizier and the devourer waiting as the scales finish judgment, the sarcophagus lifted through the antechamber, that with enough beer and onions, the workers will find every stone a place, and one glorious morning, anyone who wants to see that the empire is still here need only look. The pyramidions and benbens intact. But on top of our world of sand, each dead remnant will have to be gathered. Good work we are ready for. Beetles' backs strong enough for boulders, like a god raising the dead sun to light the sky again.
That is, wow.
I have no idea who it's referring to.
I couldn't even hazard a guess. But it is so on point. It's incredible.
Max, the things coming out of the nose, the imagery is just makes you wow.
Woo.
Good times.
Ami, do you have some stuff for us?
Trying to get through the emotions from the imagery.
Man.
I'll see if I can transfer us into something. Okay, so I'll try this one. You have to excuse me. It's still real rough, but it's what I've been working on. I think it's been fun to have a poetry night. I have 4 kids. The oldest is 9 and the youngest is 1. And so I am busy. And so it's been so nice to have like a reason to have to sit down and work on some of my poetry. But this piece is not, you know, it's been shaken but not stirred. It's not quite where I want it to be at, but I think it's important. And it's called Vision 2020. Vision 2020. The earth's been screaming plenty. Can't hear her cries 'cause we're busy pinching pennies. Cream of the crop pop while most ain't getting any. Now the human race has been thrown in the slammer for pilfering the planet for greed and glamour. The day has come to level slums. Mother Earth has finally dropped the hammer. We are her sons and daughters. Our kids read Harry Potter. Our wild imaginations got the world treading water. Early morning dawning and the sun is all aglow. By noon, dark clouds gather and the storm begins to blow. Rain falls in torrents. When it stops, we just don't know. The winds rage against us as we hide behind our doors. The voices of our mothers getting hard to ignore. Our children huddle close as we wage our inner wars. What world will we leave them? One of hope or one of fear? Our values and our villages and all we hold dear. The future is uncertain. The path seems unclear. Up late in quite a state, this raging virus on our plate, we hum and we haw, back and forth we seesaw. Our head spins, repenting sins. And in the end, weariness wins. Our frantic heartbeat slows as we breathe deep. Our worries and our what ifs all pile up in a heap. We lay our burdens on the ground and drop into deep sleep. Early morning dawning, the sun is all aglow. We praise the sky for clouds on high, their wisps as white as snow. Spring brings us promise that all of us can grow. Faith finds place to calm the race and help us listen, to ease the chatter and the clutter of the human condition. It's high time to quiet our mind and see what we've been missing.
Wow. Wow.
One more set.
Oh, come on.
It is the time to rewind and drop the blinds. Let go of our greed, our need, revolutionize our breed. Every day through work and play, one thing is for certain. Our homes are full of worry and our planet's sick and hurting. Open the windows of our hearts and let love blow through the curtains. There's no disguise or compromise. This thing ain't gonna be sanitized. And yet, today's pandemic might make us wise. Our only choice now is to open our eyes.
Nice.
Mhm.
All right. All right. Like the dramatic pause.
Little dramatic. I think for me, you know, I have this alternate life where I'm like Emily Dickinson, and it's like I'm at my house. I wear only white. There's nobody else here. And I get to write all day, but that's not really me. On Fridays, I've been bugging Max actually. We've been taking backpacks of food out into the corners and crevices of Medford to some of our families. And you go to the food pantry now, and they started out servicing like 100. We're up to 450 a day. And I have to say it really is easy to stay in your house and write poems with your kids, and I love that part of it. But I also do force myself to get out there and kind of think about what I can do, just because a lot of the kids that I spend time with are still really close to my heart, and communicating with me on a day-to-day basis, and how they are weathering this storm is very different, and sometimes really heartbreaking. So it's been helpful to write for me.
Very good. Very good. Did you have another piece that you wanted to share?
Let's see. Yeah, I don't, I'm hoping that you'll bring it back up, because I'm gonna just keep it sort of at this level. This is a poem that I wrote for a sort of like a godmother to me. She died last year, and with my schedule, one of the ways I get to write is for weddings and funerals. And this woman in particular was really important to me. And the piece that I wrote for her was one of those pieces that you don't really think you wrote. It just kind of got on the page, and you were glad that you could get the words down.
Okay.
And it's called "She Breathes the Power of the Earth."
Okay.
She breathes the power of the earth. Her heart bursts through an endless birth. She is the fire and the rain. She has known great joy and ruthless pain. She sees the forest and the trees, a satiated soul, a fresh spring breeze. Her words can bring us to our knees. Her power's deep and full of bees. Her braids are tight, her smile sincere. She has known love and hope and fear. Her sight is sharp, her vision clear. And she can be gentle like a deer. She can be fierce like a mama bear. She speaks the truth where none would dare. Her strength she braided in our hair. Her wisdom's as deep as a dragon's lair. The light grows dim, she starts to fade. Her eyes close, and we knelt and prayed. Rituals weave us all into her braid. Spirits, family, friends on parade to celebrate the life she made. And as she sailed off into the sun, forgiveness rich upon her tongue, her love for her man and her boy never undone, her truth, her strength, and her gentle laughing eyes will stay with us and make us wise. She is our chance to realize love everlasting never dies.
Beautiful. A nice tribute. Very, very beautiful. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so Yvonne.
Yes, sir.
What would you like to do?
I'm going to do the one that I just created.
Please.
We were talking about walking in the woods and what we did for COVID-19. Well, that's my solace, is quiet in the woods. So this one is called A Bird's Song. Tweet this. Eagerly we ascend the mountain path for our reward at journey's end, a panoramic view, prodding each step as we begin, an ominous task for those fighting defeat, an exuberant triumph for the summiting elite. In nature's postcard beauty along the way, A bubbling brook hints at the grandeur to come. A rushing stream builds a bounding anticipation of a cascade waterfall and natural pool calm. Among circling trees, respite rocks provide a moment of quiet. Here the rustling leaves play sun-dappled patterns on us. Here a single bird chatter, seemingly something of importance, leaving us lowly ones dumbfounded. In the woods, not so silent. From our rock, we send out our own calls to dawdling souls, describing nature's visions to entice and prod even more. But can we describe nature's beauty so succinctly? Listen to the melodic bird song, a call response in celestial trees, one bird to another, one looking for the other, pausing just enough to comprehend, yet incomprehensible to the lower realm, trying to contain the uncontainable in 140 characters, missing the simplest parallels in the chords. The learned elite slows and pauses rapid roots, acknowledges nature's gifts are not a tweet. Every season it continues bearing fruit, despite neglect, blesses us with life laid at our feet.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So that's what happens when you walk in the woods, huh?
That's what happens.
Very, very nice.
Awesome.
Sarah, I know that you didn't plan to read any more other than the 4 pieces that you did in our first hour, but I wanted to come back to you because I wanted to see or hear if you had anything that you wanted to share about the poetry that you've heard so far.
Oh boy, it's been such a joy to hear it. It's just lovely, and I'm so blessed that you included me in this. It's I really appreciate it.
Very
I,
good.
I think it'll inspire me to go back and do some more reading.
More reading, more painting, hopefully.
That's right. That's right.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Yvonne, did you have another piece that you wanted to share?
Yeah, I could share another one. I was thinking about doing the one on Easter since it has just passed. I could do that one, I guess.
Whatever
I haven't
you
read
like
it for a long time.
Whatever you like.
So it'll be good for me to hear it again too.
Okay.
It's called Sunday School on Easter Morning.
Okay.
Since we haven't really gotten together. Easter bonnets, suits, and dresses worn in shades of yellow, pink, blue, and green. Girls with hair curled, hot combs straightened or pressed, and boys, clipper haircut cool, both fully clad in the very best, ready to recite Bible verses and welcome spring. Everybody on this one day hailed the King. This Easter learned all about you, Jesus, and right from the start, you had my heart. In Sunday school with impressionable minds at age 5, ready to abide in your golden rule. Sister told us how you were nailed to the cross for all our sins, and that the first hammering, pound, ping, ping, I was done with coloring. Lost in that moment of torment, my blood ran with yours. My scrawny body buckling under the weight of an oversized brawny breastplate adorned. My crayon dropped for the sword and was wielded for the Lord. Ready to take a stand against the hammering hand before the next nail was pounded in, my fiery eyes searched for allies, but found none. Sister wouldn't even meet mine. Others lost seemed unmoved, while I had to rise at the sound, second sounding pound, ping, ping, all eyes on me. Sister's lips now silently moving, out of time with my heart singing, it's you and me, Jesus, let's do this thing. Your voice said softly as I strained to hear, child, put down the sword for my word. This is how it has to be. Do not be saddened by the third sound of pounding into my feet. Carry forth my love for all men, especially for those hammering. I will rise just as Father has planned to show man how to transcend the physical, demonstrate victory in the spiritual, and conquer all in the end.
Wow. That is indeed an Easter poem. I heard so many impressions of how it was for us little kids, getting dressed up, gussied up, going to church on Sunday, and then hearing that story and how much of an impression it made on me so many years ago.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, so I got a couple of different places that I'd like to go, but I think I'll start with hopefully something that is light. I'm sitting at my kitchen table, and my wife had the good sense to position me against the wall that doesn't have a lot of, you know, kind of distracting stuff behind me. So that's why this wall is so blank. I'm not in a cell. But this piece is called Kitchen Table. Nobody ever wants to leave. They're like the blueberry stains on mama's apron, settled and satisfied. Good food has been eaten. Fresh corn and collard greens, fried chicken and potato salad. Bellies are fat and full. This is that room. Oh my God, and girl, and are you serious right now? It's real talk. We're real people. Family, you know what I'm saying? We're family. You can smell the love long before the door opens. You know there's going to be pecan pie, and the sweet tea will be ice cold. Southern folks will slip out of their northernness, accents will thicken, and the country shade will feel closer to the city sun. And they'll stay at that table long after the crumbs are cleared, the dishes will be washed, the food will be put away or packed in Tupperware and Ziploc bags. Everyone will have a doggy bag and a story to tell. The men will be playing bid or slapping down dominoes, sipping on a little something something and talking big trash. The smiles will be broad and the laughter will be contagious. The women will be fanning and fussing. Good Lord, she knows she's too big for that dress. That ain't no Sunday saved outfit. That's for Saturday night sinning. You know I'm right. Girl, you know I'm right. Nobody ever wants to leave. They're like Black Jesus's eyes on that old print, loving and insistent. Soul food has been shared. Ma Jean has prayed down heaven and the babies sang their song. Everyone is tickled and tranquil. This is that room. I really miss Pap. Mom's holding her own, and baby boy's cancer is in remission. And when you coming back to church, it's real talk. We're real people. Family. You know what I'm saying? We're family. Thank you. Okay, so I have folks whose deal, so to speak, as was my own way back, is taking care of little folks. So I wrote this piece for a First Friday that we had, it's probably a couple years ago now, one of the early ones, where we were talking about the notion of raising children and all that entails. So I wrote this piece, it's called The Wonder Years. Miraculous engines of salt and light, each one a wonder of God's own might. What makes them gurgle and coo and such? Why do we love them so very much? How are they different at 2 and 3, developing each personality, becoming each lovable mini-me, exploring each special identity, expanding the bond of community? Who will embrace the music and arts? Who will outnumber the sum of their parts? Who will jump higher, run faster, be stronger? Who will exhibit tenacity longer? How is the village in charge of this, treating each one as a precious gift, seeing each smile as a source of bliss, raising each one as a hope to lift? What do the experts tell us to do? Beyond the red, the yellow, and blue, beyond the tying of each one's shoe, beyond the addition of 2 plus 2. If we train up a child in the way it should go, will their yes be yes and their no be no? Will faith always show us the high and the low? Will prayer always harvest the seeds that we sow? How do we mold the environment? How do we fashion the biggest tent? How do we nurture what heaven sent? Who gets to own and who gets to rent? What will our vigilance serve to prevent? What did we buy with each dollar we spent? How did we get it so twisted and bent? That's not how we planned it. That's not what we meant. Miraculous engines of blood and brine, each one a wonder of nature's design. What of their race, their gender and being? Who's to determine what they are seeing? The father, the mother, the sister, the brother? What if we stop and don't have another? If we only bear one, will that be enough? Where do we go to teach us this stuff? We wonder about every child we create. Is the world that they enter too filled with hate? What will they do with the stuff on their plate? Do we close the door and lock the gate? What of their destiny? What of their fate? Will the problem solutions arrive too late for all of the storms and all of the weight of the planet's expiration date? Are they the catch or are they the bait? We know each child will learn what they live. How do we keep it positive? How can we move them away from the screen and make them go when the signal turns green? If we treat each growing brain with care, if we teach each heart to love and share, will we grow good fruit from the seeds we bear? I really can't tell you. I just don't know. I'm only a poet with rhymes that flow. These little wonders of salt and light, let's keep them safe and hug them tight. These little wonders of salt and light, I guess we just kiss them and say good night.
Oh, I love that one.
That's sweet.
That's that.
All right.
I think I need to put that one on my refrigerator.
Okay. Yeah. So that actually will be in book 5, I think. I think, yeah. So the one that I'm actually getting ready to send to the publisher now is called Brown Skin in the Brave New World. And boy, are we living in the brave new world right now. We absolutely are. So I like jazz, and so like I will write poetry that, you know, kind of corresponds to stuff that I'm listening to, really, you know, enamored of. Okay, I think I said that. Okay, all right. So in the jazz kind of pantheon, one of the great players of all time is John Coltrane. And John Coltrane was married for a time to a woman by the name of Naima. And he wrote a song to commemorate that great love he had. And it's called Naima. It's really one of the classic cuts in the jazz catalog. I mean, everybody plays it or tries to play it. Nobody plays it like Coltrane. So this piece is called Reprise for Naima. He would blow this note in the midnight air. Aloft in the ether, it floats out there. Staccato cadence sets a mood of bluesy lyrical attitude. Improvisational mystery like Munt's piano epistrophe or Miles' tone poem in a silent way and Flanagan's piece at the end of the day. Syncopated in sharp, bright tone, a countdown to stardust, a twilight zone, like a blue train running against the night, setting the pace, then out of sight. With Hartman crooning or bags on vibes, trios, duets, quartets, and tribes, the blues, the ballads, the avant-garde, incredibly gorgeous, impossibly hard. Giant steps move us miles ahead, cooking up bop for Harlem street cred. Melodies hand to the harmony wed, piano's lullaby fresh in the bed. Rhythm rocks where the drummer led, rhythm rolls where the bass man sped. Rhythm birthed what the saxophone bred, rhythm heard what the master said. How could he make the bitter taste sweeter? How could a tortured mind delete her? How could the mellowed scotch be neater? How could the smoke from each cigarette create blue notes that cast the net, create blue beads of cascading sweat, create blue haze that confounds regret, create blue nights that we can't forget? Coltrane's notes are a crystal scale, a velvet scream in the urban travail, the heavenly rift of a love supreme, the pungent whiff of a lover's theme. Coltrane's notes are a cozy romance, the breezy bop the breezy bounce of a bop and a dance, the languid lilt of Stray's lush life, the cadence cut by the artist's knife. Coltrane's notes are its standard refined, like gold in a pan or gemstones mined, the sparkling glow of a hopeful dream, hot black coffee with a hint of cream. Coltrane's notes are Naima's reprise, like madness that brings a man to his knees, or sadness that comes when lovers part, the gladness removed from the balladier's heart. A tight arrangement cuts the gloom. The melody says that love's in bloom. The harmony spirit engulfs the room. The bride says yes to her lyrical groom. The groove and the beat then jump the broom. The kick drum resounds with a sonic boom as genius is birthed in a soul-filled womb. Musical mythology mocks a twisted path the hero walks. With shield and sword the hero stalks. The temptress shakes her twisted locks. Medusa snakes, his vision shocks. Holds up the mirror to stony blocks. The harp and the horn melt icy rocks. Serpents retreat and symphony talks. Love's door opens as lyric knocks. Coltrane's notes are a roller coaster, a hallelujah and a paternoster. The glorious jolt of the maestro's hand, the saxophone titan is in command. Coltrane's notes are a crazy rhythm, the squawks of chords in playful schism, the frenetic pace of Mr. PC, the coolest round midnight will ever be. Coltrane's notes are genius refined, like gold in a pan or gemstones mined, the sparkling glow of a hopeful dream, hot black coffee with a hint of cream. Coltrane's notes are Naima's reprise, like madness that brings a man to his knees, or sadness that comes when lovers part, then gladness revived by the balladier's heart. And that's that. I'm being greedy, but I will definitely share the wealth. If anyone of you has another piece that you'd like to share, be more than happy to hear it.
I do.
You do?
Yeah.
Come on.
I don't have the painting with me,
That's okay.
but I want you to. I'll describe the painting.
Yes, please.
And it's a large painting, and it's a painting of a bunch of clouds with some eggplants flying through them. It's very kind of you can see the eggplants sort of emerging from the clouds and flying along in formation. These are Japanese eggplants. And the Japanese eggplants have this, they have a kind of the stem comes down here, and then there's this sort of a green thing that goes around the stem, and it often looks like it's being sort of blown by the wind or washed by the water. It's sort of, it kind of looks like this. So
Okay.
that was the inspiration for this poem, and it's called A Taste of Freedom.
Okay, please.
Their recipe, a future of assault and roast in hell, but open door, sweet prescient breeze, an oily frying smell, pushed their escape from cold dark walls and fear of sharp demise, and freed them from a dungeon dank to mount on pillow skies. The night was fresh, the air so quick when they at last broke free and fled into the gossamer clouds, no more a detainee. Night turned to day, the lights winked off below the moonlit view, the dawn sent starlight drifting off, the sun warmed them through. So sit with me and close your eyes and float with them in air. Let cares be dropped like so much dew. Be still and be aware. Remember those whose fates are worse than yours by quite a lot, and give yourself this tranquil time to fly with them in thought.
That's beautiful.
Beautiful.
How evocative. Very lovely.
Mhm.
I wish I had was looking at the painting, but at the same time, I could kind of see it in my mind's eye as you were reciting.
You could go to my website and see it, actually.
I'm wondering if maybe it's one of the ones that you showed me when we were sitting at the reading club and you were scrolling through them on your phone, because it's familiar.
It's probably, yeah, probably. Yeah. I
Well,
think I've got it on my phone.
it's a beautiful poem, so no doubt it's a beautiful painting, Sarah, because you are so talented.
Thank you.
Very good. Anyone else have anything that they'd like to share?
Well, I have one if you want one. And actually, it's one that I wrote that was kind of riffing off of something you had done, Terry, where you were channeling a woman. And this one here, I'm channeling a male.
Mm-hmm.
Called A Brother's Fantasy. But you'll hear hints of familiar songs in here. From Patti LaBelle, Anita Baker, the Braxton Brothers, and there was an album that Boney James and Jaheim put together.
Okay.
Also,
Do you have a sense of how long, Yvonne? I'm just trying to get looking at the time.
it's probably 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 stanzas long, short ones.
Go for it.
All right. Rehearsed my lines 365 multiple times until I had them memorized. But when I tell you, the words just never seem to come out right. Distant S-curves whisper, do you want to ride? While the words you speak, I want to know you better. Take my gear out of drive. But when I get up the nerve to tell you, the words never come out right. You'd never know gift the gab used to be mine. Players try to persuade, though our fantasies are no longer the same. They don't understand forever changed. I dream you into moments we share, but you're not here, and you don't even suspect the changes I've been going through. If you only knew how much I love and need you, I'd take time to get to know you too. Let me explore your mind, teaching me how to love you. Can we plan for a lifetime? Rehearsed my lines 365 multiple times. Then I had them memorized. When I tell you, my words finally come out just right. You take my hand and I swim in your eyes, dive for pearls, waiting for your tug on my line. At the surface, you wipe my face, my eyes open to your melting embrace, my grasp of air as your phantom fades, and could probably care less about rehearsed lines 365 multiple times. But yeah, I still fantasize.
Wow. Wow, that's cool. You know, there's a jazz singer by the name of Kurt Elling. I would love to hear what Kurt Elling would do with those lyrics.
Okay.
I think that would be so cool. Very good. Max, I saw your box light up. Do you have something you wanted to add?
No, I was told in my faculty meetings to be on mute when other people are reading, and then I turn on when we're all chatting, just to
Okay.
minimize the noise.
Very good. Very good. Did you have another piece that you wanted to share, or?
Sure, I'll read a short one.
Okay, please.
All right. This is a poem about after Joni Mitchell died. It's about teaching the song Clouds to one of my high school classes.
Okay,
It's
love
called,
that song.
it's a short one called Clouds. I play my class a live version comparing 1969 to today. They believe in the advertised mantle, the powwow of stars. As the cycle goes, weather. What do they think of Joni's manner, confidence in her own tuning, how she starts with the familiar clouds, then illusions, and then love? Much of adulthood is looking at the last lines first, dowsing the cracked ground for strategy. They doze the talk from desks, divans, don't marvel at Joni's ascent to Cirrus, the surety of one above, who falls how she wants to, in liquid grace notes through the weight-bearing gray. How the beautiful song and its singer, my mind stays ageless. The challenge when yearlings wonder at the gifted water, debating thirst.
Wow. Neat. That is just neat.
Thank you.
Great imagery. Beautiful. Beautiful. Beautiful.
So you can lead the horse to water,
Can't make 'em drink.
but they might not like Joni Mitchell. They should.
I remember seeing Joni Mitchell at the Philly Folk Festival. It probably was 1969, and it was like transforming. I thought, wow, who is this? Because she really hadn't burst on the scene at that point.
She's special.
Yeah, she was really amazing.
So I want to, amazing. That's right. I want to read one more piece as we get close to closing this evening. And I was trying to figure out something that I could read that wouldn't leave us on a down note. Maybe I can't do it, because I think that this is kind of important right now. So I guess I'll go on ahead and do it.
Can I just point out that Joni Mitchell did not die? I heard she was dead or sick, and I wrote that. She's not dead. That's good news.
That is good news.
Sorry about that.
This piece is called Boiling Point. You'll get it. You're poets. You'll get it. We poach people in this cauldron of language and slowly cook out their humanity. We add xenophobia and labels like aromatics and spices. Those immigrants don't belong here. These illegals steal our jobs. Them strangers ruin the neighborhood. Damn foreigners run the country. We crush people in this crucible of race and grind their spirits with a mental mortar and pestle. Domestic terror sells ads on Facebook and Twitter. Black lives don't matter. Brown lives just shatter. Jews have even been forced to scatter. Bullets fly, watch the blood spatter. We confine people in this closet of gender, this metaphysical morality blender, this stay in your lane exclusion extender. L and G, B, T, and Q. Where is the pink and where is the blue? What is wrong with all of you? We pose people in this cabinet of religion. Why is he sitting in my pew? Why is that priest still fondling you? The confessional booth and the pulpit too? What happened to all the salt and light? Must Islam and Christendom always fight? Who gets to speak for the Lord tonight? The voice on the left or the voice on the right? We scald people in this pressure cooker of identity. What do we do with the not like me? What do we do with the difference we see? Why can't we value diversity? Does the soul really have an identity? Who are they and who are we? We've cooked out our humanity. How do we reach this boiling point? How do we breach this breaking point? Why are we held at knife and gunpoint? How do we get to a turning point? What great leader can we appoint? What new Messiah must we anoint? Can anyone get us out of this joint? It's an awful and persistent bind, an entire country so maligned. How can so many be so blind? Where is the mercy we need to find? What of good and where is kind? Is the disease in the heart or is it the mind? Who will the Savior leave behind? I don't have answers to all of this as the drain swirls down to a dark abyss. And affection is feigned like a Judas kiss by spiritual kinship that's gone amiss. Where is that place of eternal bliss? I can't even smile as I reminisce. Who are these demons that howl and hiss? In this quest for beloved community, the truth must speak to the powers that be. The builders must back away from the walls and repair our bridges, our homes and halls, where souls may gather in covenant, and leadership pours from government, and travelers take the road above that leads to trust and faith and love. Trust, faith, and love. I trust you as poets and speakers and seers. I have faith in your abilities to make this world better. And I love what you brought to the table tonight. And I'm so happy that each of you agreed to be a guest on this program. I think that Greater Medford community is better for it. And I'm glad that we allow poetry to be that oasis this evening where people can dip in for a little while or a long while, enjoy a little bit or a lot, and take something away that makes their night a little bit better. That's a wrap on this first virtual edition of the WMCC's monthly Words and Music program. I want to thank our guest poets for allowing us to invade their home spaces, showing their lovely faces, and sharing their marvelous graces. I just want to give kudos to Patrick Gordon from the Medford Community Media for helping us to be live on cable this evening, to Bill Hager, who's been the guru in the background, figuring up all the Zoom stuff and getting us up and running on Facebook, and to all of you, Sarah Gerald, Max Heinig, Amy Sonye, and Yvonne Reddy for joining me tonight. As we try to keep doing at least some of the good things that we like to do as a Medford institution in the heart of the Ville. We'll no doubt be back here in May with a new program and definitely with an arts twist. More news on that will be forthcoming. We hope to have the music piece worked out by then as well. And we see that we can do it just based on Max coming and playing his guitar for us and singing us a little tune. So appreciate that. Want to keep you informed about COVID-19 news as we've been trying to do, but we also want to be, as I said, a bit of an oasis in the midst of this COVID-19 desert, as I called it. So these are a few of the things that we have coming up. The Origami Club is going to be teaching and training people on the delicate Japanese art of paper folding once again at 3:30 coming this Sunday online. Celia Lee from Mackey, the Medford Arts Center Incorporated and Makerspace will be conducting a crafting jewelry workshop again online on this coming Monday, 6:30 online. And then we will continue to do our check-in calls. We do a check-in call via Zoom with the seniors of our community on Thursday at 12 o'clock. And it's open to all seniors. You just dial in. Hopefully, if you need any help up and running, you can get in touch with Bill and myself at the community center, 781-483-3042. We'll give you a little tutorial. And we'll be doing another Zoom call that's open to the greater community on Friday at 11 o'clock. They've been great conversations. We have a lot of fun. And again, our idea is that it's okay for people to be alone, but it's not good for people to be lonely. So we really want to try to do whatever we can do to keep people from feeling lonely. If you know of folks out there, and this is for our panel, but also for everybody that's watching the broadcast that have food security concerns, insecurity concerns in the greater Medford area, please don't hesitate to give us a call, 781-483-3042. We can connect you to resources where food is available. And, you know, as you've heard, we have folks who you know, on the front lines trying to help make sure that people are not suffering from hunger, because, you know, I don't care what time it is, people shouldn't be hungry. So, and they definitely shouldn't be hungry now. There will be a series of public forums at some point. We usually have a legislative forum where all of the legislators, city council, state representatives, etc., all come to the community center, and we can ask them questions and they talk about things that are happening. Obviously, with the physical distancing requirements, we can't do that. But we do anticipate doing some online forums with the city council, with the school committee, with the mayor, and perhaps with our other elected representatives from this district at the state level. So keep an eye out and look for that, because it'll be coming sometime in hopefully the not too distant future. There's no telling when we'll get back to normal, but we will. And everybody stay safe, stay sane, and stay blessed. This is the West Medford Community Center's First Friday Words and Music, signing out.